distinguished mayors, city government delegates, and online viewers from around the world. Thank you for joining the 2020 Smart City Mayor Summit online. This year, the Mayor Summit is taking place virtually and turning into an excellent opportunity for international exchange and collaboration. Taipei City Mayor Wen Zheke, Deputy Mayor Shan-shan Huang, and delegates from cities worldwide will engage in talks with one another regarding smart governance that utilizes technologies to bring cities back to normalcy amid the COVID-19 pandemic. Joining the online summit today are mayors and delegates from the following cities. Let us welcome Taipei City Mayor Wen Zheke.
Hi, everyone.
Next, let us welcome Taipei City Deputy Mayor Shan-shan Huang.
Good morning, everyone.
Next, we would like to welcome Juan Sebastian Gonzalez Flores, Undersecretary of Technology and Information Management, Medellin, Colombia.
Thank you very much.
Next, let us welcome Alan Fong, Mayor of Cranston, USA.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Next, let us welcome Paige Cognetti, Mayor of Scranton, USA.
Good evening.
Next, let us welcome Kela Magania, Local Economic Development Manager, City of Belmopan, Belize. Thank you for joining us. Next, please welcome Councillor Laurie Foon, Wellington, New Zealand.
Tēnā koutou katoa.
Next, let us welcome Bianca Dahel, CEO, Public Company for Innovation and Competitiveness, Guayaquil, Ecuador.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Next, let us welcome Mayor Lee Jae-jun, Goyang City, Korea. And first, let me welcome and invite Taipei City Mayor Ke Wen-ze to deliver his welcoming remarks.
City leaders, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Wen Zheke, the Mayor of Taipei City. The Smart City Summit and Expo, which was originally scheduled for March, was postponed due to COVID-19. Our decision was based on threat of contagion from face-to-face interaction. Fortunately, thanks to advance in technology, we are able to conduct the event today using online streaming and the video conference tool. To my knowledge, COVID-19 has infected over 21 million people worldwide and resulted in the deaths of 766,000 individuals as of August 16, 2020. Taiwan has reported 484 confirmed cases. Recent statistics have indicated that the United States have faced the most severe outcome from the pandemic. The continuous spread of the virus across the globe has caused numerous changes to people's daily lives, as well as to industry and the economies. I wish to express my thanks to everyone for taking time off from their busy schedules to be here today, especially considering the time demands that city representatives globally are facing in dealing with the pandemic. Through this online event, we hope to address how different countries are dealing with COVID-19 and how municipalities are examining topics such as pandemic prevention measures, technology-assisted solutions, and outlooks on economic recovery and industrial transition in the post-pandemic world. So far, Taipei City Government has been effective in preventing the spread of COVID-19 within the city. This achievement can be attributed to the lessons learned from the SARS crisis in 2003. We are grateful to the citizens for supporting and complying with the related regulations and the policies. Their compliance, combined with the advanced deployment measures employed across multiple fields, enabled effective response. Through approaches such as public-private partnership and the technology-assisted pandemic prevention, we were able to minimize the effect of COVID-19. The world around us has been drastically changed by COVID-19, from daily lifestyles to industrial norms. Whether it is the economy or the way we live, there is no turning back. Therefore, we must adopt strategies that integrate pandemic prevention, relief, and transition. We must assist companies and the members of the public in readjusting their mindsets, implementing the necessary transitions, and devising new socio-economic models adapt to the new norm. The 2020 Smart City Summit and Expo Online hopes to strengthen the connection between Taiwan and the world through innovative transitions. The online event series, which kicked off in June, feature numerous virtual and real-world integrated activities to promote and extend the reach of this year's Expo, as well as setting the foundation for the upcoming 2021 Smart City Summit and Expo. Despite the unpredictabilities of the pandemic, the interaction and exchanges between Taipei and the global community will not be interrupted. On the contrary, we hope to use this opportunity to further strengthen collaborative efforts by sharing experience in multiple smart city fields. We are confident that we can overcome future challenges together. Once again, I thank all of you for joining us today. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Ke, for joining us today. We will now take a virtual group photo of all the meeting delegates to capture this special moment on camera. So city mayors and delegates, please look into your camera. We are about to take a screenshot. Ready, set, smile. Next, please put out your right thumb as we take another screenshot. Ready, set, say cheese. And lastly, please put out two thumbs as we take one last photo. Ready, set, say cheese. Thank you for joining the group photo shooting. To kickstart the Mayor Summit, Taipei City Mayor Wen Ke will now make a presentation on the pandemic response strategies and prevention plan of Taipei City.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I am Wen Ke, the Mayor of Taipei City. It's my great honor to be here today to present an overview of the latest development regarding Taipei Smart City Initiative. In the light of COVID-19 crisis, we are able to integrate technology with our experience in pandemic prevention. We would also like to share our strategy and the response to the post-pandemic world of tomorrow. For the next part, we will cover two topics: technology-assisted pandemic prevention and the report on developments towards confronting a post-pandemic era. The first part is on how Taipei City was able to confront the pandemic through technology-assisted pandemic prevention efforts, as well as details on the pandemic prevention policy. These approaches help us to reduce the impact upon the overall operation of Taipei City. And we would also like to share this experience with you. Taipei is the capital of Taiwan, covers an area of about 20 and 70 square kilometers. The 4 million population consists of residents and the labor force commuting from nearby cities. Urbanization has brought many problems to this city, but Taipei's convenient mass transportation system, high-quality talents, strong ICT industry chain, and the various infrastructures have provided rich nutrients for the further development of smart city. After experiencing the SARS pandemic of 2003, the city government invested much effort overhauling its medical care system. The national effort yielded over 20,000 clinics and hospitals across Taiwan. With its citizens being aware of the danger of pandemic and the importance of face masks, this experience makes it easy to build awareness of preventing pandemic of COVID-19. This allows Taiwan to move swiftly ahead with pandemic prevention preparedness, employing existing resources to effectively protect its people from the impact of COVID-19 of this year. Firstly, Taiwan's first line of defense will be introduced. All arrivals must declare their health situation on arrival. Those with symptoms are tested. The data of those with symptoms will be imported to the smart quarantine multifunction system, and the health units will carry out 14 days of caring and record each person's health situation and hospital visits. Those who test negative will be checked for 14 days after arrival. As of August 14, 2020, Taipei City has checked 20,000 people, test 1,687, with 78 people tested positive, a positive rate of 4.62%. Contacts of confirmed cases are a high-risk group and must undergo 14 days home isolation. Arrivals are the second high-risk group and must undergo 14 days home quarantine. They are checked through the contact tracing system and the epidemic prevention tracking system. During the home isolation period, health unit staff will contact each person at least twice a day to inquire about health. Those under home quarantine will be contacted by civil administration unit staff at least once a day. It will be arranged for those with suspect COVID-19 symptoms to be taken to hospital for test. Through implementing management of arrival and contacts, as of August 14, 2020, of the 126 confirmed cases in Taipei City, only 8 were local. The rest were imported, and no large-scale community outbreak has occurred. Electronic fence system use mobile home positioning to ensure that the person under home quarantine or isolation stay in the quarantine scope to reduce the risk of community infection. According to the data of contact tracing system and the epidemic prevention checking system, the mobile home of a person under home isolation or quarantine is positioned. When the person under home isolation or quarantine leaves the quarantine scope or turn off their home, the system will send a warning message to the person. The manager and the police ask the person to quickly return to the quarantine location. The manager and the police will also visit the location and pass evidence of rule violation to the Department of Health, so a fine can be issued. After a person arrives at hospital, by inserting a national health insurance card, the National Health Insurance Medical Cloud System will remind the staff if the patient is subject to home quarantine or isolation, in a high-risk occupation, or has travel or contact history, to allow risk of infection to be assessed. In the area of actual application, access control can be implemented at the hospital entrance and the entry only after card is entered and TOCC confirmed to avoid high-risk person causing infection in hospital. In light of the pandemic subsiding, Taipei City has begun the process of reopening public venues. However, it still manages the facility by subdividing them into the Type A and Type B venue. A, public area operated by public agencies, and B, entertainment industry. Visitors accessing public venues will need to bring ID card for on-site checks. For this, the Department of Information Technology developed an integrated APP to implement the real name registration system. Currently, all reopened venues adopt this system to ensure the protection of personal information by gathering them on secure cloud-based data bank. If there is a need for checking due to COVID-19 concerns, the information can be accessed in compliance with the privacy protection laws. The data will be removed after reaching the expiration date. A distribution chart of the user accessing city-affiliated public venue and facilities. The data is integrated into the big data center for efficient management. If we receive report on confirmed COVID-19 cases visiting any of these venues, we can trace quickly and effectively with the help of this information. In response to the need for remote working during the pandemic period, Taipei City Government introduced the cloud-based video conference system. A system available to city agencies is easy to learn and easy to use, fulfilling the needs of departments in conducting internal meetings, cross-department meetings, and even cross-municipality meetings. In the area of education, Taipei City offers Taipei Cook Cloud to meet demand of distance learning. Taipei Cook Cloud received honors in the education category of both 2019 and the 2020 IDC SCARP Award. Taipei Cook Cloud boasts a rich pool of education resources, as well as online learning resources such as Cook Reading and the programming education area for students and faculty access. In response to the pandemic, Taipei Cook Cloud see a growth of 4.3 million visitors in the month of March alone, with the trend subsiding in April. The website still saw 2.5 million in April, reporting an average monthly growth of 500,000 users, which is a growth of 3 to 4 times compared to the figures before COVID-19. In June, the number of access exceeded 30 million. During the pandemic period, Taipei City Government still maintained an open and innovative attitude. It continued to introduce innovative service via public-private partnership. The real-time registration face mask vending machine is an example of this. In response to COVID-19, Taiwan implemented the real-name registration system to manage sale and inventory control of the face mask in February. Many pharmacies around the island joined the national effort to fighting the pandemic by serving as important collection and distribution hubs to alleviate the pressure on pharmacists while allowing great convenience for citizens to purchase the masks. Taipei City Government worked with the startups to load up the real-name registration face mask vending machine. The device integrates real-name system verification with the diversified e-payment options, which lowers the risk of contracting the virus from cash. All customers have to do is insert their national health insurance cards, and the machine will check his or her purchase status. They can receive their face mask from the machine after paying with the Easy Card or other e-payment options. In the continuation of the passed the policy of school campus vending machine using a cashless exchange. The face mask vending machine with real name registration mechanism has been implemented. Our next step will be to evolve into the smart mobile module, which continues our effort to realize service combining cashless exchange, real name verification, and mobility. In the future, we will promote the concept of mobile modules in Taipei City. With the help of mobile devices, city workers can conduct service such as supply deployment and management under real name registration system, social welfare related, and long-term care related operations without being limited by their physical location. This will allow the government to replace all the passive service providing model with a proactive one. During the pandemic period, Taipei City Government holds regular meetings to discuss the latest development of COVID-19. However, it encountered problems such as segmented information, prevent policymakers to have full grasp of the situation. To resolve the issue of fragmented data, we integrate COVID-19 related information with the latest pandemic status for Taipei City through the Big Data Center. Through clear-cut visual presentation of related data, city officials are able to use them as reference to make decisions on resource allocation, risk assessment, and the performance checking of pandemic prevention efforts. Though Taiwan has managed this pandemic successfully, we must also take into consideration other countries that are still battling against COVID-19. Therefore, Taipei City Government has actively participated in exchange forums to share our policy and experience. Furthermore, Taipei City Government has also sent its sister cities a copy of our epidemic prevention SOPs and offer further assistance to those that requested it. As long as other countries are still suffering, Taipei will never be safe from the virus. We are determined to utilize innovative technology to create new business models that can operate under the digital transformation. We have also examined how to better protect people-centric industry and the methods to strengthen supply chains. This pandemic has also offered an opportunity to boost the development of our biotech industry. Engage within other countries to learn about their experience and policy to promote economic revitalization is not only beneficial for us, but is also a meaningful way to deepen our relations. As nations across the world enter the post-pandemic era, Taipei City continues to ponder upon what form the future economy will take, as well as devising corresponding strategy and response. To stimulate the economy, the Taipei City Government has formulated 5 short-term actions aimed to promote economic revitalization of the wholesale and the retail industry, business districts, night markets, department store, and catering. The first is to guide the cooperation between business e-commerce vendor and the delivery platform. Second, we must assist with the digital transformation of industry and support business innovation. Third, the government shall help business pioneer overseas opportunities. Fourth, we must improve environmental facilities and the basic infrastructure. And finally, we will increase business opportunities and hold promotional events. This epidemic is an opportunity for Taiwan industry to transform themselves. Our older industry will be replaced by new ones. To coexist with the epidemic, we must have new economic model and change the idea of return to the past. We must think of what the economy will look like in the future. The post-COVID-19 era is defined by a new form of isolation between people and the people, as well as between nation and the nation. This will be reflected on corporations, individuals, and the consumption pattern, and create changes in industrial system by introducing unmanned, automated, and flexible production, long-distance learning, remote working, seamless health and environment service, and other individual consumption environment. We accelerate the development of e-commerce. Online and visual economy will also gradually be initiated. As a local government, we must consider how to build a better future. There are three key items that we must consider. The first item is how to make the government smarter. In other words, how we can create a future government with a digital ecosystem. This is a very important point. The second item is the provision of new talents. How we support the innovation and the transformation process by cultivating better talents. The third item is the completion of all things that must be done so that the retail economy and the zero-touch economy can move to the next stage. As this epidemic accelerates digital transformation, the Taipei City Government is hoping to take the lead and set example with the public departments. In addition to aiding services for residents, we were working to trigger imagination and develop opportunities in different fields so that this idea and opportunity can drive industry transformation. In the face of pandemic, Taipei City Government responded in the shortest amount of time through private-public partnership and the technology-assisted pandemic prevention efforts. It was able to resolve the challenges and improve the overall effectiveness of city operations while maintaining continuous service to residents despite keeping manpower investment low. It is able to quickly adjust and adapt to a lifestyle characterized by coexisting with COVID-19. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the city government seeks to implement digital transition by leading within the public sector. In addition to providing more service to residents, it also reached out to industry and explored the possibility of future development, encouraging the private sector to embark on their own transition as well. Due to the limited time, I was able to provide only a brief overview of our plans. I welcome you all to scan the QR code and visit the website of Taipei Pavilion and the Pandemic Prevention SOP page to look out the details. Thank you.
And thank you, Mayor Ke, for your presentation. In today's Mayor's Roundtable discussion, delegates from 6 cities across 4 continents will share their experiences in using technologies to mitigate the impact of the pandemic. The roundtable session will be moderated by Shan-shan Huang, Deputy Mayor of Taipei City. I will now turn the program over to Deputy Mayor Huang.
Yes, Deputy Mayor, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. My name is Shan-shan Huang, and I am the Deputy Mayor of Taipei City. First, on behalf of the city government, I'd like to thank you all for joining us at the 2020 Smart City Mayor Summit It's without a doubt that the development of the smart city has become a global trend for municipalities around the world, especially during this difficult time brought by COVID-19 pandemic. Our governments, including Taipei, are facing the impact which tests our capabilities in taking on challenges. With years of experience and efforts in building a hub city for public-private collaboration and smart city innovations, Taipei City is keen to solve problems via technologies. It is certainly our pleasure to share the story with the world. Therefore, in this year's Smart City Mayor Summit, we will be addressing the following issue. COVID-19 has a profound effect on people's daily lives, governmental operations, and the economic of most cities. How can technology help cities recover? We have invited local leaders from municipalities at different parts of the world to share their experience. In addition to Taipei City, there are many cities overseas who are also working on smart city development and application, which also offer valuable experience in pandemic control measures. In the next part of this program, we would like to invite city leaders from Colombia, the United States, Belize, New Zealand, Ecuador, and South Korea to share us with how they managed to reduce the impact of the pandemic and help the city's finance and the energy sector recover with smart technologies. First, please allow me to introduce Undersecretary Technology and Information Management, Juan Sebastian Gonzalez Forras from Medellin, Colombia. Medellin is the second largest city in Colombia and has earned good reputation and recognition as an innovative and highly developed cities. It is outpacing the other major Colombian cities in the construction of a smart city. Now, please join me to welcome Undersecretary Juan Sebastian Gonzalez Forras.
I'm very excited to be part of this panel. Thank you very much for having me here today. I'm going to talk today about how Medellin has faced the COVID pandemic by using 4 industrial revolution technologies during containment, mitigation, and economic reactivation phases. Next, please. Medellin is a data-driven city, and that's why information has been key to take the best decisions. Big data, artificial intelligence, robotics, and IoT are just some of the technologies used in the digital transformation generated by the pandemic. Next, please. Next again. We created a strategy in order to provide timely support in both health and food to the most needy people. This strategy was enabled by a big data platform called Medellin Takes Care of Me. Next, please. There are different flavors of this platform for the companies, for the families, for the supermarkets, for the educational institutions. I will elaborate more later on each of them. Next, please. The first challenge that we got during the pandemic was that the main phone emergency line that is called 123 got collapsed. There were a lot of people with a lot of misinformation out there. They were calling this main phone line, thousands of people at the same time, and we didn't have enough human agents to reply to all those calls. In order to sort out this situation, we created a voice bot based on artificial intelligence who replied to more than 90% of the questions in an automatic way. The remaining 10% of the phone calls were replied by human agents because we consider during the first phone call that the people were in risk and they require human agents to look after them. Next, please. we geolocalize every single phone call done by our citizens. We requested information about their health situation, demographic data, and with this, we identify which were the potential most risky areas of the city in order to provide timely support. In this heat map, we could filter by demographic data, which are the area where older people were living, people feeling symptoms, and in order to mitigate the risk of having outbreaks. With this information, we could implement geolocalized lockdowns in order to prevent the whole city to be in lockdown all the time. We implemented geolocalized lockdowns. This was very helpful and it was very successful, and it was possible because we had data and information. Next, please. The second challenge that we faced was to keep people at home because our hospital resources were not ready to face this pandemic. We didn't have enough ICUs, and in order to be ready, we needed to reduce the number of infected people. In order to have that, we requested people to stay at home in a lockdown. But here we had a very big challenge. How we could ask people to stay at home in a city where there are many people that live with informal jobs. If they didn't work one day, they couldn't eat that day. So we needed to identify those people, those families, and provide them health and food support. Considering that the resources are not infinite, that they are limited, we needed to prioritize the family that were in real need. We created a platform that is called in Spanish Medellín Me Cuida, which stands for Medellín Takes Care of Me, which basically was a big data solution. We crossed the main databases of the local government and the national government in order to identify not just people, but group them by families and provide health and food support to the families. We integrated with databases of benefits programs from the local and national government in order to identify which were the families that never got any benefit, any support from neither local or national governments. But it was not enough because this information was changing all the time with the problems that we have, the political problem that we have in the region. There were many migrants coming over the city of Medellin from Venezuela, from other countries. This information was changing all the time. We had families that got small businesses that during the pandemic, they got bankrupt. A small restaurant, they had to close, they got bankrupt. They didn't have any help before the pandemic from the government, but they needed our help right now. In order to identify those families, the only way to know it was to ask them to request that information to the people. We created this platform based on big data where we requested that information. It was a software web-based. We requested information to the people about their current health situation and economic health situation, and we trusted the people. With this information, we identify the people that really needed our help, and we were the first city in Colombia and one of the first cities in Latin America to request people to stay at home, but the first city that provides economic and health support to those people because we wanted them to stay at home. Next, please. With all that information, it was very successful. We got more than 90% of the people of Medellin and metropolitan area, which is around 4 million people. We got more than 90% of people registered in the platform. We provided support, prioritizing, and we discriminate people in order to provide health support. People or families where there were people older than 70 years old with at least one comorbidity, we provided to them pulse oximeters in order to track every single day and in real time their health situation. People older than 70 years old with at least one comorbidity is the people that is dying, not just in Colombia, but in the world. And those people need it. With this dashboard, with this data, with this information, we could identify those families and we could give them support on time. Next, please. Here you can see we are monitoring in real time all the benefits that we are providing to the family. Every single dollar that we provided, we are showing in a dashboard, and it's public. It's open data that the citizens can use in order to create new technologies to solve problems for the city. In this dashboard, you can see that we are monitoring every single positive person that got COVID. We are identifying which are the areas that are in most risks. And in this way, with this data, we are able to create or to implement geolocalized lockdowns. Next, please. As you can see here, we are ordering by risk the areas. The first there is the city center. 4 weeks ago, we implemented a lockdown in this area because it was very risky. The old people usually went to the city center in order to take a coffee in a park. It was very risky, and most of the old people were getting infected in the city center. So we created, with this data, we implemented a geolocalized lockdown, and this helped to reduce the number of infected people, and mostly the old people. Next, please. We created this platform where you can see all the geolocalized COVID. In purple, the most recent cases, and in yellow, the oldest cases that are almost recovered. In the left-hand side of the screen, you can see a form where you can tie an identity card, a card of any person in the city, and this platform will create in an automatic way an epidemiological fence, not just with the family, but the family nearby in the area where this person is living, and the families and workmates that are close to the workplace where this person is living. In this way, this was a very helpful platform for the epidemiologists to have a more accurate epidemiological fence. Next, please. Here, we are monitoring constantly the availability of hospital resources, especially the ICUs. At the beginning, we had just 30 available ICUs, and now we have around 600 ICUs available. Next, please. As you can see here in the green line, we are showing the capacity, and the gray line, the occupation. We are monitoring constantly on daily basis in order to take better decisions. Next, please. Here is the plan to create and to have more than 1,000 ICUs available in the city. This has been done in collaboration with the private sector, and we are currently building our own ventilator. We don't need to import them from any other country. We are now creating our own ventilator, and soon we will be able to export to other countries and to help other cities in the country. Next, please. Here we are monitoring real time the geolocalization of the ambulances in order to transfer in an optimal way patients from home or from some hospital to the closest hospital with the available hospital resources that those patients have. Next, please. And we created Medellin Takes Care of Me for enterprises. Next, please. This was a very successful platform with more than 90% of the companies were registered. At the moment, we have 84% of the economy open. Next, please. We have more than 90% of the people already working. We have more 1,600,000 people already working, and they were allowed to work because when they registered in our platform, the companies registered the biosecurity protocol, which was reviewed carefully by the Secretary of Health in the Medellin city. This was very helpful also for the supermarket and physical and brick and mortar stores because we provided this QR code. They downloaded an application, a mobile application that they could scan and let us identify the physical store. And with this, they were able to register every single person that entered in the supermarket and in the physical store. And this led us to create more accurate epidemiological fences because when one person was confirmed COVID, we know with whom that person was and what time and what day, in which physical store, in which supermarket. In this way, we created more accurate epidemiological fences. Next, please. We cross data with the massive public transportation in order to identify which economic sector were getting transported in which time frame of the day. We requested, for example, the construction sector to shift their schedule time frame from 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. in order to keep the capacity or the occupation of the public transportation up to 50% of their capacity and avoid risk. Next, please. Here we are monitoring every single line of the subway and all the transportation system, the level of occupation. We are monitoring the occupation on every day in order to see if there is any misbehavior or unexpected event. Next, please. The conclusion is technology and information is the formula to save lives. The more information we get, the more and the better decisions we take. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. Next guest with us today will be Mayor Alan Fong from the city of Creston in the United States. Despite being a center of population of Rhode Island, Creston is among the top safest and most livable city in the country. Please welcome Mayor Alan Fong.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Cranston Mayor Alan Fong, and I'm proud to join this distinguished group of colleagues from around the globe to discuss this important topic of using technology to combat this pandemic, a pandemic that has impacted our daily lives currently and in the days, months, and possibly years to come. Next slide, please. You know, our city has a population of around 82,000 residents and is about 30 square miles. And our city is basically split into an urban, high-density area in the east and a more suburbia feel in the western side. While we are small than many of the other cities on this panel, from a percentage basis, this COVID crisis impacts us just as much as every other community around the globe. As you can see from some of the data that we track on a daily basis, 16 to 17% of our total population has been tested currently. But we still have a high positive rate hovering at about 8.5%. At one time, this was in double digits. But we have effectively used technology to drive that positivity rate lower. We've even seen over 15 deaths and continue to see numerous hospitalizations within our city. This is a crisis that impacts every community, small and large, and Cranston was one of the first communities in our state to have to issue a quarantine order. We found technology was a critical tool to help educate our residents about what is going on, and most importantly, help enforce a lot of our community mandates. Next slide, please. One of the things that we used principally to drive a lot of information out was even our city website. We reformed our website so that there was a dedicated key prominent area right on that front homepage so that all the residents can come to one centralized area to keep informed on not only Cranston guidance, but state and federal mandates as well. We provided residents with information from testing sites, quarantine orders, and even information about our daily operations within all of our respective departments. We also had and drove a lot of residents to sign up for our email distribution blast, and we kept issuing notices to them. We utilized digital robocalls through our emergency management code red system to get critical messages out to our residents. We placed electronic message boards in key areas of our city, and especially where we saw there were hotspots, to flash important messages in multiple languages to let our residents and visitors know where to get help, but most importantly, where to turn to for accurate information. We found that this was problematic because there were a lot of rumors because of the diversity within our city and a lot of misinformation out there. So utilizing a lot of these different electronic message and technological innovative tools to get the message out was important. One of the best communication tools that we found, social media. It was extremely important to get the message out, especially to the younger generation who weren't taking it as seriously as many of the adults were. It indeed became a big help during the crisis, especially as our city was one of the first ones to go into quarantine status because we had one of our high schools had a February vacation trip to Italy, which had undergone a massive surge, early on. Through social media, in that first week alone, we had over 100,000 views in a brief 1-week period when this started. We pushed out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, short clips to keep our residents engaged and to understand how our city was responding to this crisis, how each of the individual departments, whether it was the police department, fire, senior center, whether they were closed, partially open, and how the food delivery service was going to, get delivered to them and on time. What we did find, especially to engage a lot of the younger residents, was humor. Humor worked tremendously with a lot of our school-age students who didn't understand what was going on, and especially our high school students who always felt invincible and didn't really take the quarantine status seriously. Next slide, please. Now, this is a short video that my staff created where I enlisted the help of some of my fellow mayors from Italy, because our city is predominantly Italian-American, to create a funny message, but a serious message. So if we can please play the video for everyone. Great job to the vast majority of you who stuck it out in quarantine. You helped to keep so many others, like your grandparents, safe. You caught up on virtual learning. You were part of the solution here in Cranston, and I'm really proud of you. So I can see where you think you're off the hook now. Well, let me be the bearer of some bad news. This thing still isn't over. I got wind that some Corona parties were being planned. Think again. And let me channel my inner Italian mayor to explain how serious I am.
Mi arrivano notizie che qualcuno vorrebbe preparare la festa di lava. Mandiamo I carabinieri, ma li mandiamo con I lanciafiamme.
And you think you're headed to the fields to play ball? Unfortunately, I've spent the better part of this week chasing groups off of them. I know in the middle of this pandemic, you don't think I have anything else to do, but this nonsense is turning me into this guy. So tonight, this weekend, and for the foreseeable future, continue to text or FaceTime with your friends instead of hugging them. When you do see people, do your part by staying the heck away, or at least 6 feet apart from each other. From a grateful mayor, Thanks for your help in battling this deadly virus. Now, as you can imagine, this video went viral, but overall, it helped get across to the younger generation, our students, the importance of quarantining and to take this pandemic seriously. Next slide. You know, getting into our schools serves over 10,000 students, and they had to pivot quickly because we were one of the first ones that had to go into quarantine and move towards distance learning within a week's time frame. But we had many challenges with connectivity and our diverse student population. We had to purchase and distribute thousands of Chromebooks to ensure that distance learning would work. But we had great private sector partners to ensure that people who could not afford it would be able to get mobile hotspots so that their sons and daughters can learn at home. We also had to get creative and utilize Zoom and other platforms like WebEx to engage students in the classroom. We did fun activities like virtual reading weeks to help keep the students engaged at all times. It wasn't easy, but it continued on. And sadly, because this crisis continued, we had to even transition to virtual honors nights and graduations to celebrate our seniors. But as this continued on, you know, we had to be more innovative and continue to use new technologies. Next slide, please. You know, as you can see from the slide, this is an image off of my own personal cell phone. And it's an app. Because one of the things that we realized was that contact tracing was too difficult to do, even in a city of our size. But we had to get it done, and technology was a key element of making sure that we can hold people accountable, get information out there, and get information from them if they tested positive. So we partnered with our state health department, which had developed this app for everyone throughout our state. This Crush COVID app, as you can see from that image, had a lot of different tools to it. And we strongly encouraged our residents to sign up for this free app instead of using pen and paper to write things down. But this application helped keep an individual's log of their symptoms, contact tracing based upon geolocation so that we can learn all of the locations that they visited, or even so that they can find a testing site that was near them. But from a privacy standpoint, we took that very seriously. And the state made sure that with that geolocation tracker, they only had access to that information once the person tested positive, so it was for contact tracing purposes. All of these features help the state health department obtain vital information for anyone that tested positive, and only with their consent, because privacy interests were of utmost concern to all of our residents. Next slide, please. You know, we keep hearing, that we have to adapt to the new norm. But in that new norm, for our future, technology has to continue to be here. And in Cranston, as well as many other cities and towns across the country, we're part of that push to ensure that 5G networks have to be built, because it will be necessary for the classrooms of the future, wherever they may be held, whether it's in, a student's bedroom, to even a combination of being within the classroom and at home, whether it be for businesses, wherever it's going to be a remote workforce operating out of a commercial office space or in their home office. And even in government, we've had to learn that we had to adapt to meet the needs of our residents in a safe manner. In fact, schools are going to be starting up in probably 3 to 4 weeks. And our superintendent has been working closely with us to ensure that we have a hybrid model in place where it's going to be a combination of in-person learning as well as virtual learning sessions once everyone goes back. And we've incorporated Zoom, WebEx technologies, as well as other platforms for continued learning in the classrooms. we're also using that technology on an economic development basis to help with our business owners. We're holding virtual classes with them so that they can learn about all the different opportunities that the city, state, and federal government offers to them. In fact, we've even moved some of our online some of our payment systems, whether it's in tax collections or even in building inspections or our clerk's offices, so that people don't have to come into City Hall to do business. And our senior centers are even adapting where they're hosting virtual health classes for many of our seniors using something as simple as Facebook Live. We're doing more, and technology is a critical component of the new normal in government, not only in Cranston, but for all of our lives for our residents. And I thank you for having me be part of this important summit.
Thank you, Mayor Huang, for joining us today. Next, please welcome Mayor Paige Canetti from the city of Scranton in the United States. As the largest city in northeastern Pennsylvania, Scranton has a large healthcare and manufacturing sectors. The mayor will share with us how they take advantage of smart technologies and manage to deal with the pandemic. Let's welcome Mayor Paige Canetti.
Good evening. I'm so honored to be here. Thank you so much for having me. I know it's morning there, but it's evening here. And I'm just really thrilled to be here with all of you from across the world. It feels good to know, we know this in our minds, but it feels good to see all of you and to feel that we really are all in this together, that this difficult year of 2020 is something that we've been fighting side by side in every city across the globe. And again, it's an honor to be here tonight. I wanted to talk really about communication and how that has been the real key piece of what we've been able to do here in Scranton as we've fought COVID-19. A little bit about our city before I get started. We're a city of about 77,000. I think it's a little higher than that at this point, probably 80,000 people, the largest city in northeastern Pennsylvania. We're 100 miles from New York City and 100 miles from Philadelphia. So while we're small, we're near many, many of the larger cities. And in March, April, and May, only 100 miles from New York City, which was, unfortunately, a hot spot here in the United States for some time. So our COVID response had to be quick, and it had to be really clear to us, thinking about our population. We have an older population. You can hear my daughter in the background. She's one of the newer residents of Scranton, but we generally have an older population. So we had to really think about who it is that we serve here in the city of Scranton and figure out how to communicate with them. Not everyone here in Scranton uses a smartphone. So, what are the things that we can do to be communicating with them? And you might recognize the name Scranton, quite famous right now because the presidential candidate Joe Biden is from here. So Scranton is definitely on the map, and we are happy to be talked about and excited to be here for forums like this where we can talk about the future and what an exciting place it is to live. So next slide, please. So as we talk about communication, many of the mayors and team members before me have spoken about this, but really coming into this office, I started in January. I wanted to change the way that City Hall communicates with its residents. Now, I had no idea that in the 10th week of my administration, we would be fighting a pandemic, but I was grateful for that mentality that we needed to increase communication, because when we first came in, we established the very simple things of a Facebook page, a Twitter account, an Instagram account. We started using the website. It's not where we want it to be so far, but we started to use it as an information hub. I was so grateful that those things were in place so that in March we could start to use them. So we started to make sure that at every single hour of every day, we would be the resource hub for our citizens. Maybe it's not something that we could help them with, but we wanted to make sure that we were constantly pumping out information and taking incoming calls or incoming emails, incoming questions, and trying to get answers for people as they faced unemployment, as they faced food insecurity, as they faced the actual public health crisis and had questions about COVID. So by establishing a communication structure that was in social media and also good old-fashioned phone calls, calling a lot of people, good old-fashioned advisory boards, bringing all of the nursing homes together with us to talk, bringing all the hospitals together, bringing all the emergency services together, and keeping everyone in communication. The city was able to really become that linchpin of communication for our area. In addition to that, I utilize a lot of radio. I use a lot of television and newspaper, and we just are constantly trying to get information out through every medium possible. And it's really been a key to us being successful. Something that's also been exciting is the transition to work from home and the acceleration of remote services for the city. Next slide, please. So we've seen impact, across the United States. Definitely in Scranton, unemployment has been a real issue, and it's something that we might, take a very long time to recover from. So as we fight the public health crisis of this, we're always thinking about the economic impact as well, and trying, as we fight the public health piece, to be understanding the patterns and trying to look at how we might be able to help with training and jobs and economic recovery in the future. So while we track the public health side of things, we're also trying to track those trends with our employees, with our employers, and with our education partners. Next slide, please. So one thing that we did now here in Scranton, Pennsylvania, we don't have a big budget. We were already quite financially distressed when I took office, and the COVID crisis hasn't helped. So it's amazing to be on a call like this with the mayor of Taipei and to see all the amazing technology that the city of Taipei or the city of Medellin can employ. We're trying our best with the limited resources we have in a city like Scranton. So we've been scrappy, and we've been really working with what we have internally. My own team has designed the website and information hubs that we have. One of them is Scranton Works, which is a hub for unemployment. You can go there and see what jobs might be available, what training might be available. Business relief, we have grants and loans available to our small businesses. Those are available there. And we're also trying a campaign of work from here. So as we are all working remotely, being only 100 miles from New York and Philadelphia, we are trying to push that concept of, why live in the big city when you can buy a home and have a big yard and go to a school district like Scranton. We're just 100 miles away. So these are types of the things that we're trying to utilize the crisis for good. It's been devastating to all of us, personally and emotionally and across the world. We're trying to find those good things that might be helpful for our economic recovery. Next slide, please. So on the communication front, all of these communications have continued, not just through June, where we had really flattened the curve, but they continue on now. And unfortunately, at least here in the United States, we really haven't gotten much of a reprieve here. While we haven't had a COVID death in this county in northeastern Pennsylvania for 1 month, which is wonderful, we still have cases every single day. The virus is still very much with us, and we are bracing for a potential second wave in the fall. So we have continued to not only be communicating with our hospitals, our nursing homes, our emergency managers, all of our educators, our residents, going out into the neighborhoods, trying to make sure that people understand the services that are available to them. We've also been trying to do some longer term planning by working with the county to increase broadband access. Our school district has gotten Chromebooks for every single student, which is incredible. That's thanks to some federal funding that has come down. We have a computer training pilot program at a senior apartment building in the city, giving seniors the skills that they need to be able to do telemedicine, to be able to interact with their loved ones over whether it's FaceTime or Google Hangouts or any of those types of applications. I know my grandmother doesn't have a computer, so these types of trainings for older adults, adult technology training, those are some of those key things that we're trying to do now to help as we really look down what we unfortunately think might be a long road ahead of us here in northeastern Pennsylvania in terms of fighting this virus. Next slide, please. So the communication aspect of this is again, something that I wanted to do coming into office, but it's been the most important thing through everything is full transparency, being honest with your residents and your constituents, and leading with empathy. If I were just coming on to my weekly or biweekly town halls and pretending that everything was okay, or pretending that we didn't have residents out there that were suffering, pretending that those food distribution lines weren't miles long, pretending that our kids were okay by not being able to see their friends. If I were doing that, I would be doing myself, the city, and our residents a disservice. We in the city have tried to lead with empathy. We've tried to lead with a full acknowledgement of the challenges that we have and that we don't know all of the answers. We think that in order to keep our community strong, we have to be honest with our community and make sure that we are being as transparent with them as we would want, were we the ones sitting at home worrying about our families. I think that that has been the most important thing. It is what we draw on every single day. As we do go down this long road, we don't have every tool we need. A different segment that we could do, we could talk about the different, this has laid bare some of the issues that we have in terms of the layers of government here in the United States, federal versus state versus local. There are some gaps there. There's some real gaps that we've seen during this crisis, and we need to fix those. But while we try to fix those, while we do everything we can to communicate, while we do everything we can to increase testing, increase tracing, contact tracing, increase our ability to speak with one another, whether we're my 95-year-old grandmother or kindergarten students trying to stay in touch with their peers. Everything that we're doing, we have to be honest. We have to use our communication skills, and we have to understand that we are really all in this together. And at the end of it all, we're all going to get through it. So I don't think I have any more slides. Are there any more coming up? Okay. Oh, do I have? Is there a next slide?
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay.
Next, please welcome Kayla McGania from the Local Economic Development Manager from Belmopan of Belize. Founded as a planned community in 1970, Belmopan is one of the newest national capitals in the world. They have the resolution for working towards a resilient city. Please welcome Ms. Kayla McGania.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. I will be speaking on Belmopan's economic competitiveness in the COVID-19 pandemic era. I am doing this presentation on behalf of Mayor Khaled Belal, who sends his regards to the other mayors, delegates, the organizers, and especially the city of Taipei for bringing us together. Next slide. So I will start by talking a little about Belize. Ours is a very small nation with 298,000 persons. Our urban population is very small as well. It is close to 158,000 persons. And for those who enjoy trivia as much as I do, the Belizean flag is one of the only national flags with persons in it. As it relates to the COVID pandemic, the country of Belize has 452 confirmed cases as of now. Our first wave is here, and it has been for the last 2 weeks. So this is a great opportunity for us as we see how other cities in the world have been managing the situation, since this is very new to us. Next slide. The capital city of Belmopan started its construction in 1967. It was developed as an administrative center concept due to its key geographical location. It's in the center of Belize. The capital city moved because of a hurricane that occurred in the 70s. So that's why it was moved inland. It was until the year 2000 that the city was finally incorporated as a local government authority. So we are a very new city. We're 20 years in being in local government. The population of the city is 25,000 persons. However, it's one of the fastest growing municipalities in the country with a growth rate of 6.5% per annum. Currently, we have only 5 persons in the city who are COVID-19 positive. So once again, I extend our gratitude for having us here, because the experiences and the cases shown by the different cities will be a learning experience for us. Next slide, please. So here are some of the pictures of our city. Next slide. Okay, so Belmopan's vision towards post-COVID-19 competitiveness. As we hit the first wave of the pandemic, the city is working towards implementing policies focused on infrastructure initiatives, since a lot of people have been unemployed because of the pandemic. The labor force has been cut. So we're using technology as a part of introducing these people in the labor force. When it comes to a focus on education and vocational capacities, a lot of it has been going online. There has been a shift to the online modalities using WebEx, Facebook feeds, and Zoom applications, which is something that's very new for us. But through the Ministry of Education, this is something that we are currently looking at. We are currently enhancing our urban amenities by also shifting our services to more online platforms. There was a progression during this administration to go towards a more online presence, but the COVID pandemic has accelerated the rate in which we have to do this by making ourselves more accessible to the citizens. Currently, the Local Economic Development Department is undertaking the project to revamp the website and create an application to keep in touch with the citizens while providing real up-to-date information on what is happening and sharing the guidelines, the national guidelines, which mandate us during the current state of emergency that we have in the country. We have a statutory instrument that guides us nationally. So the citizens and businesses in particular have to abide by the regulations set out by the Attorney General. So that is what the city is abiding on right now. Next slide, please. In making our economy more competitive and in the hopes of minimizing contact between persons, we are reducing the red tape in one of the most important processes in fostering business, which is the trade license process. Before, we had to have physical visits by different departments for a business to open. So the COVID-19 pandemic has also pushed us toward minimizing that red tape that previously existed. And by this way, we're also abiding by the physical distancing measures. We're hoping that this will also foster a conducive environment for businesses to be conducted and to operate safely during this pandemic. Under the statutory instrument, masks are mandatory, and if businesses are incentivized to keep customers and as well as their employees safe, and if not, they're penalized. There is also mandatory implementation of the 6 feet distancing, all in the hopes of maintaining and minimizing the effect of the pandemic. The national government is also, through the local government authority and the economic development department, providing incentives for businesses so that they can procure protective equipment, also providing subsidies and small grants. And because we have seen a new focus on businesses are opening to cater specifically for the new realities that we have, which is in delivery services, catering for online ventures, pharmacies opening to cater for the personal protective equipment necessary, smaller businesses opening up to create masks and so on. So we always want to give a push towards those businesses which are creating products that will alleviate the pandemic, but also provide jobs to the people of Belmopan. Next slide, please. We're also encouraging existing business to think outside of the box. Through our virtual think tank sessions, the municipality has moderated these sessions, as well as we're encouraging the associations to promote safety and new ways of thinking of how their businesses are going to be operating. We hope that all of this will attract new business ventures geared toward alleviate the effects of the new way of living. The municipality is keen providing services to the private sector, and in the next slides, I will be talking a little bit about them. We want our city to be known as business friendly, but always taking the necessary precautions and measures to keep our city safe. We know that the cost of competing in the global market for business is critical, and by doing so, we're offering free services to our residents. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yeah, it is because of this that we're offering services such as the Belmopan Business Catalog. This is a virtual catalog which is updated according to the lockdown scenario that we currently live on and the curfew. As the curfew and the lockdown scenario changes, so will the features in the business catalog, in which it encourages physical distancing because we're promoting and marketing our businesses online, while also giving them a competitive advantage by helping them to advertise their business because it has been slower than usual. Next slide. We have also taken the initiative to do a Belmopan business promo, which is a marketing campaign led by our Deputy Mayor, which showcases local businesses and advertising the new ways of doing business in the city. Next slide. We're also making available our tech services to the various businesses free of cost. This includes free graphic designing, consultancy with web developers and IT officers, because we know that all of this brings a new and unforeseen cost associated with the COVID-19 pandemic, and none of them could have foreseen these costs. So we're trying to minimize these by offering these services to our residents. Next, please. Social media has also been used to rally citizens to a new way of living. We're a city very rich in land, and we took this as an opportunity to incorporate social media in advertising sustainable planting, creating home gardens, and this is one of the things that we have been doing to assist people in having their own to eat. Next. In conclusion, since the start of the very first wave of the pandemic in Belmopan 2 weeks ago, a new reality has set in for businesses and citizens alike. Our municipal policies will be geared towards a more online presence and a shift in working conditions to cater for a more diversified way of offering our services. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now, we are pleased to have Councillor Laurie Fong of Wellington City Council, New Zealand. The capital of New Zealand has developed a program named Towards 2040 Smart Capital to fuel its resolution to build a strong resilience in face of the future environmental, economic, and social challenges. This is exactly what we need in recent time. Please join me to welcome Councillor Laurie Fong.
Kia ora and greetings. Thank you so much for hosting us in the Smart Cities Summit. And I am here on behalf of our Mayor, Andy Foster. My name is Laurie Foon, and I am the councillor for the beautiful Southern Ward. I don't know if you can see it on our picture, on our slide down the back there, but it is a pleasure to be here today, and thank you to all the speakers for sharing your experiences. There could be a very good conversation around this, I'm sure. So next slide, please. So Wellington is New Zealand's capital city. We are the cultural and creative heart of New Zealand. And since 2011, Wellington has been on a journey to make ourselves a smarter, greener, and more resilient city. Our Smart City program has been unusual as it's focused on social and sustainability outcomes from the very beginning. And I'm going to share with you a few examples of what we mean by that when we're talking about smart. Next slide, please. So being smart is about doing things in better ways that build on changing systems for the better. And Wellington is one of the few cities in the world with growing Indigenous biodiversity. And this is due to having a native bird sanctuary called Zealandia in the heart of our city. We've been working with our community and successfully reintroduced species lost from our ecosystems for nearly a century. And this lovely parrot is one of our native birds called a kaka that you can now see flying over Wellington City regularly. Part of how we do that is by helping our community to plant trees and restore ecosystems on city lands. Then these lands are scanned as part of the LiDAR scans, which underpin our city's digital twin. The biomass is detected, computed, and entered into the emissions trading scheme. And this creates carbon credits that can be ethically stamped, their story told and sold to Air New Zealand, which in turn continues to help funding this work. Next slide, please. Can we please press play on this one? So we also need to know if it works. And this is a visualization from a trial we undertook in Zealandia. And this is the AI platform TensorFlow, classifying native birds by using their calls to help us understand if our bird life is increasing or decreasing. And this helps us to know if our efforts are working. Right. Next slide, please. And this is all part of a much greater deployment of sensors as we work with our community to deploy traps to wipe out introduced predators like rats, mice, and stoats, because these predators are having a devastating effect on our native bird population. We are aiming to be a predator-free city by 2050 so that we can reintroduce our native and iconic bird, the kiwi. I hope you all know us as kiwis, and the other species to get them back into the wild in our city. And the beautiful little bird on the right is the hihi, which is a native. And so that is what we get to enjoy in our capital city. Next slide, please. So now we'll go into our COVID story. So like all nations, and thank you for sharing your stories, we have also faced the challenge of COVID-19. We've been through a tough lockdown, which eliminated community transition from New Zealand for 102 days. But now I'm sure you've heard we are working to eliminate a small outbreak again. Behind this massive effort by our team of 5 million, that's what our Prime Minister calls us, there has been technological innovation centred on making sure we get through this together. This is an example of that innovation made by the data ventures using cell phone data. Actually, could you replay that again? That help expertise of Stats New Zealand to help us visualise and analyse movement patterns to help us get ahead of the virus. This helped understand factors like how economically deprived communities moved around more than much more affluent communities and helped us devise effective tactics to change this. An example of that was working with building managers from apartments to help them set up networks to share stories on how they can support their tenants to stop the moving around. Next slide, please. At a local level, we've seen a few dashboards like this today, but our response saw Wellington take a once-in-a-generation opportunity to invest in our community sector and help it to scale to meet the needs of the people in our city. And we worked with NGOs like the City Mission to increase our food aid by over 400%. This was in part made possible by good relationships, and those good relationships were underpinned by data. And as we've heard today, that helped give us confidence in the decisions we needed to make quickly in order to care for our citizens. Next slide, please. Our efforts were underpinned by cross-government data as well. We knew that sharing this data and using this to understand how the health and economic situations were translating into our communities. And having data like this gave us confidence, yes, to make the decisions we needed to. Next slide, please. And if you could just start it at 3.50 seconds. So now we're into a bit of resilience and climate change, so how we're using data to help us make decisions with this. So we are using digital twins to help take these insights and plan our response, which shows, oh, sorry, I did the wrong one. So it's okay. Yeah. To break new ground with partners in the use of game engines to understand city data and create experiences which can help us respond to climate change and other resilience challenges, which in Wellington are particularly earthquakes. And this is our first generation development and use of a city-scale digital twin in VR. It has helped us respond to resilience challenges and understand massive sensor-based data sets to make better strategic decisions on how to deal with sea level rise challenges in our city. And it has also helped the Makara project, which is about helping a community begin the practical planning needed for adaptation to sea level rise. Next slide, please. Great. Is there a thank you slide next? Thank you. Yeah. So, ngā mihi, I hope you have found the way we're using data for better survival of our precious biodiversity, care for our community over COVID-19, and enabling us to better plan for our future with the impacts of climate change. We would love to welcome you to Wellington, the coolest little sustainable capital in the world soon, and to show you these experiences firsthand. Kia ora, tēnā koutou katoa.
Thank you, Councillor. It's also with a great pleasure that we invited Ms. Biana Dahel to join us. She is the General Manager of Innovation and Competitiveness of Guayaquil, Ecuador, and the Pearl of the Pacific is the main port of the nation, with ongoing projects seeking urban regeneration as a principal objective of the city's growth. May I have your applause to Mr. Biana Dahel.
Good morning to everyone. Thank you, Honorable Mayor and Honorable Deputy Mayor of Taipei City to host us this morning, and to my colleagues and mayors of the other cities. It's a pleasure for me to be here with you. On behalf of the Mayor of Guayaquil, Dr. Cintia Viteri, it is a great pleasure to talk to you about our journey dealing with COVID-19. Can you please help me with the presentation? Thank you. Next, please. Yeah. So a little bit of our city. We are right in the middle of the world. Guayaquil is the second largest city in Ecuador. We have a population of near 3 million people. We are the country's main port. And from this city, I can assure you that we export the best bananas, shrimps, cocoa, and teak of the world. But 50% of our population come from informal economy, and that is a major challenge dealing with COVID-19. Next, please. Our mayor is Dr. Cynthia Viteri, and she also was she was also affected by COVID-19, and she has to figure out this whole plan that I'm going to talk to you while being sick of COVID-19. Next, please. So in Ecuador, we have 95,000 confirmed cases and almost 50,000 deaths confirmed from COVID-19. Next, please. As you can see in our city, our peak was between the end of March and the beginning of April. But we figured out a way to decrease this peak, and we have around 3 months without any deaths above the average. We're not saying that we do not have deaths of COVID-19, but they're not above the average. Next, please. So something that you need to know is that our city is not in charge of the health or the public health system. So the first weeks of being affected by COVID-19, I have to be honest, we kind of struggle dealing with, working together with the central government and the local government. And something that is very, very clear is there are 5 key factors, if I might say, that definitely help us lowering the peak and the impact of COVID-19 in Guayaquil. First is the power of open data in decision making, and especially the protagonism of local government. We need speed, and that's something that comes with the local government. Also, the relevance of partnerships and joint efforts with the private sector and the academia. Also, the need of speed and the source of innovation from makers and entrepreneurs. The support systems that comes with having global network, and these kind of conferences are an example of that. We need to exchange different strategies and actions of other cities throughout the globe. And the great opportunity to facilitate regulations and encourage economy reactivation, especially for small businesses. Next, please. So where we were able to be very fast, and in 30 days, we were able to increase by around 500 beds with oxygen and extra ICUs, with mechanical ventilators and also with electric ventilators. As Medellin, we also had a challenge, and now we are producing our own ventilators. And that was like a major success, and we're very proud of that. Next, please. Also, we developed an app together with a telecommunication company called So Safe, and we were able to provide telemedicine, and that was very helpful, especially for other diseases besides COVID-19. We have 6,000 free Wi-Fi spots for our population. And during quarantine time, we were able to increase the amount of free Wi-Fi. And now we are in the middle of the school terms, and we have free Wi-Fi for all students, 24/7. And that's a main help. It has been very helpful especially for the lower income areas of the city. We have around 5,000 security cameras in the city on streets, and we were able to use them as speakers as well, not only monitoring security of the city, but also speakers. So by that, we were able to send specific messages if we see people without wearing masks or doing something out of the law. Also, our mayor and the municipality are very strong in social network, and that's why we were able to provide official information every time. And also public transportation has also been a key aspect. We are able to, monitoring, controlling, but also helping people and being able to provide different information and doubts that they might have. We have implemented curfew. First it was 2 p.m., then we extended it for 9 p.m., and now our curfew is 11 p.m. every day of the week. We're not able to have any parties at home. That was not very popular, but it's what it needs to be done. Bars, schools, universities are closed. License plates, we have restriction in order to kind of control the traffic, and the venues, public places, and public transportation at 30% of their normal capacity. Next, please. From beginning of April, when we were in our peak, we were able to establish a door-to-door strategic plan that was based on with data and using a GIS. We were able to partner with UNDP and food banking in order to we're also being activated. So the key point here is not to wait until COVID patients go to hospitals, but try to keep them at an early stage and at home. Yeah. Next, please. Next, please. Other measures, well, of course, airport control. Also, we have approved more than 5 city ordinances regarding to biosecurity and reactivation. That's something that I want to move forward to explain you a little bit more. Please, next. Yeah. As I mentioned before, 50% of our people depend on informal economy. So quarantine, it's very difficult. There were people saying, you know what, I prefer to die of COVID-19, but I don't want to die, of hunger. So I need to provide to my family. So with that being said, we have providing an e-learning platform and really encouraging delivery services. So we have a biosecurity platform, and we give certificates to all the motors, bicycles, drivers, and this is connected to the traffic agents of the city, so that they do not have to go through uncomfortable controls. We have created a safety and support network for entrepreneurs. We created together with the with a private company, this online platform for entrepreneurs. Our online sales passed from being around $80 million weekly to around $500 million with these and other projects of our entrepreneurship and innovation ecosystem. We, as I mentioned, we're trying to accelerate the economy reactivation, knowing that for entrepreneurs, cash flow is the deal breaker. So what we're trying to encourage is to facilitate, all these kind of permits and licenses taking so long. We are trying to lower them, and that has been like a key priority for this administration. And now we are as they have mentioned, we are the only city in the world talking directly with the vaccine projects, working together with the Minister of Health of our country, and we're trying to be updated and in order to take vaccines as an emergency request. So that's thank you so much for your time. We were the epicenter of COVID-19 by the end of March, and now we have been addressed by the Wall Street Journal as one of the cities that was able to lower the peak of COVID-19 the fastest. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Our final speaker will be Mayor Lee Juan-jun from Goyang of South Korea. It is one of the largest cities in the Seoul capital area and has been great growth over the years. Despite not being able to present himself on live stream, he especially made a video to share his insight for this summit. Let's hear how the city delivers and upgrades all kinds of service with a plan called Ubiquitous City using cutting-edge technologies. Please enjoy the speech by Mayor Lee Juan-jun.
반갑습니다. 아시아 최대 규모의 스마트시티 박람회인 타이베이 스마트시티 서밋 엑스포에서 고양시의 사례를 소개할 수 있는 기회가 주어져 영광입니다. 타이베이는 참으로 역동적인 도시입니다. 세계 50위권 내 도시 경쟁력을 지닌 대만의 중심 도시입니다. 고양시 역시 지난 30여 년간 급격한 성장을 거듭했습니다. 작고 한적한 도농 목갑 도시였던 고양은 남과 북이 맞닿는 접경지로 발전에 제약이 많았습니다. 그러나 신도시 개발 이후 교통과 인프라라는 강점을 바탕으로 대한민국 10손가락 안에 꼽는 인구수의 대도시가 되었습니다. 일산 테크노밸리와 방송 영상밸리, 세계 20위권 규모의 국제 전시장 등 거대한 산업단지도 수년 내 들어섭니다. 비대해진 도시는 필연적으로 비효율을 낳게 됩니다. 지금 우리 앞에 이상기후와 자원고갈, 양극화, 고령화로부터 최근 코로나19라는 전례 없는 팬데믹 사태까지 전통적인 해법으로 풀 수 없는 도시 문제들이 쌓여왔습니다. 2000년대 초반 고양시는 도시의 새로운 해법을 찾고자 정부와 함께 스마트시티의 밑그림을 그렸습니다. 바로 유비쿼터스 도시입니다. 도시 곳곳 통신망과 센서를 구축하고 연결함으로써 어디서나 원하는 정보와 서비스를 얻을 수 있도록 했습니다. 이 계획은 공공의 주도하에 수립됐습니다. 그러나 공공이 100% 주도하는 UCT는 시민의 삶에 구석구석 닿기에는 명백한 한계가 있었습니다. 또한 단순히 건물과 하드웨어를 물리적으로 연결하는 것만으로 도시 문제를 해결할 수 없었습니다. 초기 유비쿼터스 도시는 온라인 모바일과 결합하여 스마트 시티로 전환되어 왔습니다. 단지 기술적인 변화에 그치지 않았습니다. 지난 20여 년 스마트에 집중해왔던 고양시는 2018년을 기점으로 시티에도 초점을 맞추기 시작했습니다. 고양시가 지향하는 이상적 스마트 시티는 기술과 양적 팽창에만 급급해온 과거를 벗어나 사람이 살아가는 터전으로서의 도시 기능을 회복하고 미래 세대를 위한 자원과 공간을 비축하는 작지만 강한 도시입니다. 이 스마트 시티는 연결과 포용으로 도시의 본질을 회복합니다. 단절되어가는 개인과 개인을 잇고 현 세대와 미래 세대를 연결해 도시 잔절을 막습니다. 또한 도시의 모든 구성원 그리고 자연까지 포용해 기술의 혜택이 고르게 돌아갈 수 있도록 합니다. 또한 고양 스마트 시티는 공급자가 아니라 수요자인 시민이 직접 스마트 시티를 설계하고 도시 문제를 해결하는 리빙랩 방식을 그 핵심으로 합니다. 2018년 고양시는 이러한 지향점을 담아 대한민국 지자체 최초로 스마트 시티 표준 가이드라인과 중장기 계획을 만들었으며 영국 왕립 표준협회로부터 스마트 시티 국제 인증도 받게 되었습니다. 이 인증을 받은 도시는 전 세계 5곳에 불과합니다. 이 계획안은 스마트 시티 구축부터 운영까지 전 과정을 담았습니다. 전기 자전거 등 새로운 교통수단이 스마트 모빌리티, 공기정화, 가로등, 쓰레기 수거 등 환경을 쾌적하게 하는 스마트 에너지, 보육, 체육, 관광 등의 서비스 지원으로 삶의 질을 높이는 스마트 리빙, 드론 순찰, 화재 감지 등 안전망을 구축하는 스마트 세이프, 정보를 나누고 공공 인프라를 확대하는 스마트 인프라 등 총 5가지 분야의 스마트 서비스를 담고 있습니다. 그 첫 단계로 IoT 융복합 실증단지를 조성했습니다. 시 전역에 다양한 사물 인터넷 감지 센서를 설치해 데이터를 축적하고 이를 시민을 위한 사업에 활용합니다. 온도, 미세먼지, 자외선과 같은 기상정보 제공을 비롯해 수질 측정, 안전, 주정차 분야 등에서 총 12개 서비스를 구축했습니다. 이 중 스마트 쓰레기 수거 관리 서비스는 2017년도 세계 스마트 시티 기구 어워드에서 금상을 수상했습니다. 고양시 전 지역의 쓰레기통과 수거 차량에 센서를 설치해 쓰레기 적재량을 파악하고 차량 동선을 효율적으로 관리합니다. 또한 고양시는 이산화탄소를 배출하는 만큼 흡수함으로써 실질적인 배출량을 제로로 만드는 탄소 중립도시를 지향하고 있는데 그 핵심 전략은 바로 스마트 시티입니다. 고양시는 새로 개발되는 공동주택단지와 산업단지를 신재생 에너지를 도입한 친환경 스마트 단지로 조성하고자 작년 3개 공공기관과 녹색 건축 협약을 맺었습니다. 이 협약에는 내년 착공하는 4차 첨단 산업단지인 일산 테크노밸리도 포함되어 있습니다. 강과 습지까지 10km를 잇는 녹지 추도 조성에 자연까지 포용하는 새로운 스마트 도시를 시도할 계획입니다. 또한 새로 지어지는 공공주택단지를 탄소 저감 청정단지로 조성합니다. 친환경 건축자재를 사용하고 지붕과 베란다에 신재생 에너지를 설치하는 등 탄소 저감 기술을 적용합니다. 그 시범 사업으로서 새로 개발된 향동지구 공공주택 중 500세대의 미니 태양광을 설치하고 발전량과 사용량을 모니터링하는 태양광 에너지 탄소저감 리빙랩을 운영 중에 있습니다. 가구당 30%에서 67%까지 전기료가 절감될 뿐 아니라 연간 100톤의 온실가스를 저감하고 나무 6,800그루를 심는 효과가 있을 것으로 예상됩니다. 블록체인 기술을 이용해 온실가스를 과학적으로 측정하고 관리하는 통합에너지 관리 시스템도 특허 출원했습니다. 올해 이를 포함한 고양형 탄소저감 실증 모델을 개발해 UN 기후변화협약의 탄소저감 사업의 표준 모델로 적용할 수 있도록 신청할 계획입니다. 스마트 시티는 사람보다 앞서 발전하는 도시가 아니라 사람과 자연과 공존하는 도시입니다. 고양시는 기술 그 자체의 발전보다 사람이 이 기술을 얼마만큼 체감할 수 있을지, 얼마만큼 고르게 혜택이 돌아갈 수 있을지 고민할 것입니다. 그런 점에서 스마트 기술의 보편화, 표준화와 국제적 연대는 매우 중요합니다. 오늘 이 자리가 국가를 넘어 기술을 나누는 보편적 스마트 시티의 첫걸음이 되기를 바랍니다. 경청해 주셔서 감사합니다.
And thank you, Mayor Lee, for your remarks. Finally, let us invite Shan-shan Huang, Deputy Mayor of Taipei City, to summarize today's Mayor's Roundtable discussion.
Thank you all. Your experience allows all of us to understand that the development of a sustainable city is not based solely upon advance in ICT, but also on steering up its resilience with quick response and flexibility in tight situations. In addition, it is essential to integrate resource and innovations from both of industry and the private sectors so as to find out the right solution promptly and make efficient revision along the way. We appreciate the presence of our distinguished guests and would like to say thank you to all our online audience. Our next live stream session of Roundtable Talk will take place on August 19th. Please follow the latest update on our official website. Thank you all, and we look forward to see you again. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Ke and Deputy Mayor Huang, for joining us today. Our most grateful appreciation also goes to all the mayors and delegates for participating in today's virtual Mayor Summit. Before we conclude, may I remind you that the next Mayor Summit will be live streamed at 5 p.m. on August 19th, Taiwan time, on the summit's YouTube channel. You will find the link to the channel in the video description down below. And the live streams will also be archived on the same channel, so you can watch them again afterwards. Thank you for participating in the Smart City Mayor Summit today. Please stay tuned and join us again in the next Mayor's Summit.